Over $200 billion wiped from the crypto market in just 24 hours. Bitcoin is falling. Altcoins are dropping. That's the mood right now of the entire market. But while the market sells off, Mastercard, the US Treasury Secretary, and the United States Senate are all making moves at the same time. And what they just did changes the conversation. So I'm going to walk you through all of it, and the biggest one I'm saving for later. You'll understand exactly why when you see it. Hit the subscribe button because we cover the crypto markets daily. Let's run it. This post caught my attention. Bitcoin drops 10% in a week. Normally, altcoins fall off a cliff, 20 to 40% drops across the board. But that didn't happen this time. Bitcoin is pulling back, but altcoins are holding. Some are printing new highs, and that divergence is unusual. And in my experience, when altcoins absorb a Bitcoin sell-off without collapsing, it means capital isn't leaving crypto. It's just rotating selectively into projects with actual usage. And if that holds, it's a signal worth watching closely. Now look at the liquidation map. 7 billion in longs stacked up versus 1.7 billion in shorts. That's a 4-to-1 imbalance. And what that tells you is there's a massive wall of leveraged longs sitting below current price waiting to get liquidated. Market makers can see that. And then there's this, Bitcoin versus gold. 2026 has been the most oversold reading on the oscillator in history. Every time this has gotten this stretched, it's eventually snapped back. The timing is never obvious, but readings like this tend to mark turning points in the larger cycle. And as always, I'm not your financial advisor. I don't know your situation. I just share the data and the analysis that my research team and I find in the markets. And what you choose to do with it is completely your call. All right, here's what I've been wanting to get to. While the whole market is focused on red candles, this dropped. Read this post right now. Mastercard is expanding its integration with the XRP ledger. Always-on settlements, time-sensitive intraday payment flows, leveraging the ledger's near-instant finality and 14-year track record. And here's Mastercard's own announcement: stablecoin settlement, intraday settlement, holiday and weekend options, supporting Ripple's RLUSD on the XRP ledger alongside USDC, PYUSD, and others across Ethereum, Solana, Polygon, Base, and the XRP ledger. And Ripple confirmed it directly. What this means is that the XRP ledger is now part of the settlement rails for one of the 2 largest payment networks on the planet. This isn't a pilot. This isn't, we're exploring here. This is Mastercard announcing live settlement capabilities. And partnerships like this don't care what the price is doing today. They're built for what the price reflects in 12 to 24 months. So comment Amen in the comments below if you understand the difference between price and what's being built underneath the price action. And what's happening in Washington right now is exactly why partnerships like this are about to scale even faster. The Senate is back. Clarity Act negotiations are resuming, and the committee chairman opened with this. For years, the digital frontier was trapped in a regulatory gray zone. Developers, entrepreneurs, and investors were left with uncertainty. They faced confusion and enforcement actions, when instead the government should have been crafting clear rules of the road. Those hurdles drove innovation overseas, left Americans exposed, and made it harder for law enforcement to do their job. Today we change that. Protecting consumers, keeping innovation at home, national security, not partisan, American priorities. That's how the Senate is framing crypto legislation right now. And Lummis wants to wrap the Clarity Act together with the CFTC bill, ethics legislation, and fixes from the Genius Act into one combined vote. 60 votes, one shot at the most comprehensive crypto regulation in American history. The legislation gives institutions the clarity to operate on chains like the XRP ledger at full scale. Mastercard can settle, but the regulatory framework is what unlocks the volume behind it. And both are moving in the same window. This is the kind of context we break down inside Altcoin Pro every single day, connecting the dots between legislation, partnerships, and positioning so our members aren't reacting after the fact. They're reading what's underneath. I'll leave a link in the description. And here's the macro underneath all of this. American personal savings rate is 2.6%, A year ago, it was 5.5%. That's the steepest decline since the pandemic, and it sits in the same range as the 2008 crisis. People are struggling to save inside the traditional system, and that squeeze is exactly why the largest payment networks and financial institutions are building alternative settlement systems. Mastercard isn't doing this because crypto is trending. They're doing it because the demand for fast, cheaper, always-on money movement is growing, and the traditional rails aren't keeping up. Now, I want you to read this post carefully. The Treasury Secretary of the United States is on record. Our Digital Assets Initiative, the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve. This is new technology. This is new ground. We are proceeding with all deliberate speed, and we are making sure that as we do this in this complicated process, we use best practices and things will be durable for the future. I look forward to working with you and your team on that. And I look forward to the Clarity Act being passed this summer. That's the person responsible for the financial policy of the United States confirming the direction. The institutions aren't waiting for the sell-off to end. They're building through it. And Brad Garlinghouse himself, at a Binance conference, laid out exactly why the tailwinds behind this industry are stronger than they've been in years. There are so many macro factors continuing to provide tailwinds for this industry. Going into 2026, I don't remember being this optimistic in the last handful of years. Regulatory clarity in the largest economy in the world, and I think people underprice this. 22% of global GDP is the United States, and this is a market that has been openly hostile to crypto for 4 or 5 years. And now that has changed significantly, pretty quickly, but institutions are still catching up. Franklin Templeton, BlackRock, and now even Vanguard, a company that historically refused to touch crypto, is now shifting. The CEO of Ripple saying he hasn't been this optimistic in years. And this is the person building the settlement rails that Mastercard just plugged into. And this is worth sitting with. What if institutions are driving Bitcoin lower before the Clarity Act passes so they can accumulate cheaply? Whether you believe that or not, the timing of this pullback, right now, as the biggest crypto legislation in US history heads to a final vote, is very hard to ignore. June will be a bullish month. The comments are split, and honestly, nobody knows what June does at the end of the month. But what's being built underneath this market isn't waiting for a green month to validate it. Mastercard is already moving. The Treasury Secretary already confirmed it. The Senate is already legislating. Altcoins are gaining strength while Bitcoin weakens. And some analysts think it's a trap. And for most altcoins, that's probably right. Most won't survive this cycle, and they won't recover in the next one. But the projects with partnerships at the Mastercard level, with regulatory tailwinds behind them, with settlement capabilities already live, those aren't the ones that get trapped. And check this out. Peter Brandt, with 50 years of experience, one of the most respected chart analysts alive, he was asked what the best bet in crypto is right now, and his answer surprised everyone, including the host. XRP probably is the best. If you had a bet on a horse to become transactional, it would probably be XRP. Most end up junk. When a 50-year veteran is making active calls in this space, that tells you the caliber of attention crypto is attracting. It's changed permanently. Our audience on YouTube has changed drastically. We have some of the wealthiest professionals in the industry watching these videos because this isn't 2017 anymore. So if you're holding through all of this, follow us on Instagram at Bullrunners. We're teaching everyone that follows us our altcoin trading strategies and crypto passive income blueprint. Just make sure to check your messages as soon as you follow us. I'll leave a link to our account in the description. Mastercard is settling on the XRP ledger. The Treasury Secretary confirmed the Clarity Act is passing this summer. The Senate is wrapping everything into one massive bill, and the market just dropped $200 billion. So you can look at that and see a crisis, or you can look at it and see the biggest gap between what's being built and what the price reflects since this market began. One of the greatest buying opportunities of your generation. And if you want to understand what's happening underneath this and how to prepare for what comes next, I put together a full breakdown called The Great Reset. It covers how my team and I are positioned for what we believe is coming. The link is in the description. Go watch it right now. As always, I will see you at the top. Stay bullish.